It was a quiet evening in the small town of Maplewood, a town where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were rare. But that night, a secret of unimaginable weight was about to emerge. Emma had vanished. One moment she was laughing at the dinner table, her eyes bright with mischief as she teased her younger brother, Liam, about his terrible attempt at drawing, and the next, she was gone. The house seemed to exhale a cold, empty sigh, as if it had been holding its breath in anticipation of her absence. Her bedroom, untouched, betrayed no hint that she had planned to leave. Her favorite sweater lay neatly folded, the lamp beside her bed still casting a warm, comforting glow, and her diary rested in its usual spot on the desk. Yet, Emma was nowhere to be found. The family's panic began quietly at first. Michael, her father, called her friends, retraced her steps, and drove to the places she usually went. Claire, her mother, scoured the town, searching the streets, alleys, and parks, pleading with anyone who might have seen her daughter. Liam, barely 10, wandered around the house, touching Emma's belongings as if that would make her appear. But the town offered no answers. The police were sympathetic but limited in resources, filing missing person reports that led nowhere. Maplewood, a place that had always felt safe, seemed suddenly claustrophobic, filled with whispers that Emma had run away, that something darker had taken her, that the perfect family's fragile veneer had shattered. Days turned into weeks. Michael buried himself in work to avoid thinking, while Claire barely slept, pacing the hallways and gazing at the door, waiting for a sound that would never come. Liam drew pictures of Emma every day, leaving them on her bed, hoping she would return to see them. The absence became a living, breathing thing, an ache that refused to fade. Friends tried to help, bringing meals and offering words of comfort, but nothing could fill the emptiness Emma had left behind. The family's home, once a place of warmth and laughter, had transformed into a monument of worry and fear. Then, the strange occurrences began. It started with sounds: soft footsteps in the hallway at night, the rustle of fabric when no one was there, whispers that seemed to come from empty rooms. Claire tried to dismiss them as imagination, exhausted by worry, but the feeling of being watched persisted. Michael, skeptical at first, began receiving letters with no return address, each containing cryptic lines: "She remembers what you've forgotten, not everything lost is gone, and time has secrets of its own." He showed them to Claire, hoping for reassurance, but the words only deepened their unease. Even Liam, normally full of laughter, became quieter, glancing nervously toward the empty spaces in their home. He would sometimes stand at the window for hours, eyes scanning the street, hoping for a figure he recognized. One evening, 3 months after Emma's disappearance, Michael received a phone call. His hands shook as he lifted the receiver. A calm, almost eerie voice whispered, "She's back." And just like that, the line went dead. He dropped the phone, staring at Claire, whose face had gone pale. Could it really be true? After so long, could Emma be returning? Or was it a cruel joke, meant to tear open their wounds once more? That night, just as the clock struck midnight, a soft knock echoed through the front door. Heart pounding, Claire opened it. Emma stood there, the same face they remembered, the same bright eyes, but something was different. She looked older, serious, and there was a distant look in her eyes that neither parent recognized. Liam, without hesitation, ran to her, hugging her tightly, tears streaming down his cheeks. For a fleeting moment, everything felt normal. Then Emma pulled back, her eyes glinting with a strange intensity, and whispered, "You don't know the whole story." Her words sent a chill through the house. That night, they sat together in the living room, the warmth of reunion mingled with a tension that made the air thick. Emma began to recount her story. She spoke of strange places, people she had never mentioned, and experiences that seemed almost impossible to believe. She spoke of a figure who had followed her, of moments when she was forced to hide, of nights spent in fear that she might never see her family again. Every detail was vivid, yet disjointed, as if parts of her memory were missing, hidden behind a veil of confusion and trauma. Her parents listened, hearts clenching, realizing that the daughter they thought they knew had returned with pieces of a life that existed in shadows. Days turned into nights of sleepless worry as Emma's story unfolded. She revealed a hidden world of secrets, one that had remained invisible to everyone except those directly involved. Her captors, or perhaps protectors, had moved in silence, ensuring no one could trace her path. She spoke of narrow escapes, of help that came unexpectedly, and of moments when she had to rely on sheer instinct to survive. Claire held her hand, tears rolling down her face, struggling to reconcile the brave, frightened girl in front of her with the carefree child she had known. Michael clenched his fists, torn between relief at her return and anger at the horrors she had endured. Liam barely spoke, only holding her hand, afraid that if he let go, she would disappear again. But the unease didn't fade. Emma's stories contained gaps, hints of danger that seemed to follow her like shadows. One night, as she described an encounter with a stranger who had almost found her, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat. When they returned, Emma was staring toward the hallway, eyes wide with fear and recognition. "They're coming," she whispered. "And we don't have much time." The family froze, realizing that the nightmare was not over. Whatever had taken Emma, whatever had forced her into those months of absence, was still out there, waiting. As days passed, Emma began to reintegrate into the family's life, but something had changed. She was cautious, watching doors and windows, alert to every sound. The laughter and warmth that once filled the home were replaced with whispers and glances, as if danger lurked in every shadow. Claire noticed subtle changes in Emma's behavior, moments of fear when she heard a distant noise, sudden bouts of sadness that seemed disconnected from the present, and a tendency to retreat into herself when confronted with simple questions. Michael tried to shield her, creating routines, ensuring the doors were locked, and keeping strangers at bay, but Emma's unease seemed almost instinctive. Liam, sensing the tension, became her confidant, the only person she seemed to trust fully. Together, they would sit quietly, speaking in whispers, planning, and preparing for something neither fully understood. Then came the first clue that hinted at the truth of her disappearance. Emma discovered an envelope hidden in her old diary, one she hadn't noticed before. Inside was a single photograph, a picture of her family, taken from afar, with a shadowed figure lurking behind them. Her heart skipped a beat. She recognized the figure, but its identity remained obscured. The photograph raised more questions than answers, deepening the mystery. "They've been watching us all along," she murmured. Her parents exchanged worried glances, realizing that the danger that had claimed Emma's freedom might never truly leave them. Over the next few weeks, the family tried to resume normal life, but normalcy was impossible. Emma returned to school, but every interaction carried a tension, a subtle fear of being discovered. Michael and Claire remained vigilant, noticing strangers who lingered too long on the street, cars that appeared repeatedly in the neighborhood, and small details that didn't fit the routine of everyday life. Liam, perceptive beyond his years, began noticing patterns, connecting dots that adults overlooked. Together, the family felt a fragile sense of unity, but it was overshadowed by the constant awareness that something, or someone, loomed in the background, a silent threat waiting for the right moment to strike. Then came the first night of confrontation. Emma awoke to a noise outside her window, soft but deliberate, a rhythmic tapping that seemed almost too precise to be random. Heart racing, she nudged Liam awake, whispering urgently. Michael and Claire were alerted by the commotion, and together, they confronted the shadow outside. But when they opened the door, nothing was there, only the cold wind and a single note pinned to the doormat. "The past always catches up." Fear and disbelief gripped them, but beneath it was a renewed determination. They understood, in that moment, that Emma's story was only beginning to unfold, and the answers they sought would come at a price, one that might demand courage, sacrifice, and the ultimate confrontation with the darkness that had haunted their family. By the end of the third month since her return, Emma's presence had transformed the household. Love remained, fierce and unyielding, but so did fear. Every smile carried a hint of worry, every embrace a shadow of doubt. Claire and Michael were determined to protect their children, but they had learned a painful truth: sometimes protection alone was not enough. Some dangers required facing the unknown, stepping into shadows they had never imagined, and trusting the person who had returned changed, stronger, and scarred by experiences that left indelible marks. And so, the family braced themselves, aware that the journey ahead would test their bonds, their courage, and the very essence of what it meant to be together. As Emma lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she whispered to herself, "I can't let them win. Not now, not ever." Somewhere beyond the walls of their home, in the dark, silent streets of Maplewood, a presence stirred, watching, waiting, knowing that the story was far from over. The morning after the mysterious note appeared, the house felt heavier than ever. Every room seemed to echo with memories of Emma's absence and whispers of the unseen danger that lingered outside. Claire paced the living room, clutching a mug of cold coffee, eyes darting toward every window, every corner, anticipating the next sign of intrusion. Michael sat in silence, jaw tight, replaying the events of the past months in his mind. Emma, sitting quietly on the sofa, seemed far away, lost in thoughts she refused to share. Liam, though younger, sensed the tension. He lingered near her, his small hand brushing against hers for reassurance. No one spoke for what felt like hours. Then, as if drawn by a force they couldn't see, Emma rose and walked toward the old diary where she had found the photograph. She opened it carefully, revealing more hidden pages, letters, and cryptic symbols she hadn't noticed before. Her parents watched, a mix of dread and curiosity in their eyes. Emma's fingers trembled as she held a folded note written in a handwriting that was both familiar and terrifyingly foreign. She unfolded it slowly, revealing a single sentence: "If you want the truth, you must follow me where I cannot go." The words sent chills down their spines. Claire tried to ask what it meant. But Emma shook her head. "I can't explain everything yet," she whispered, voice heavy with fear and determination. "They've left pieces behind, clues I need to follow, and I can't do it alone." Michael's heart raced, torn between wanting to protect his daughter and realizing that she had been through things beyond his comprehension. For the first time since her return, he truly understood that Emma was no longer the child he remembered. She had been forged in shadows, her mind and spirit tempered by months of fear, cunning, and survival. That evening, Emma insisted on going to the town library, a place she hadn't visited in months. She claimed that something hidden in the old archives could reveal the identity of the figure who had haunted her. Claire protested, worried about sending her into potential danger, but Emma was adamant. "I need answers, and if I don't do this, none of us will ever be safe," she said, eyes blazing with resolve. Michael reluctantly agreed, knowing that confrontation was inevitable and that protecting Emma meant trusting her instincts, even if it terrified him. Liam tagged along, small but determined, refusing to be left behind. At the library, Emma led them to a dusty section of old newspapers, local records, and town maps. She spread out the documents, piecing together events that had gone unnoticed by the casual observer. Patterns emerged: sightings of a shadowy figure near the town edge, unexplained disappearances of travelers passing through Maplewood, cryptic symbols etched on doors and sidewalks that went unnoticed by the townspeople. Each discovery added weight to the mystery, confirming that Emma's ordeal had not been random. Someone, or something, had been targeting her, watching her family, and orchestrating events from the shadows. Claire felt a growing panic, but also a strange pride in Emma's courage. Michael, however, felt a growing anger, realizing that the safety he had promised his family had been violated in ways he could not have imagined. The breakthrough came when Emma uncovered a faded newspaper clipping from 5 years ago. It detailed a series of kidnappings in a nearby town, all involving children who bore uncanny similarities to her own appearance, same hair color, similar features. The article hinted at an underground organization that abducted children for reasons never fully disclosed. Emma's hands shook as she read the words aloud. This is why they came for me," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but the weight of the revelation filled the room. Claire clutched her chest, feeling the depth of the danger that had loomed over her daughter. Michael's hands clenched into fists, and Liam hid his face, overwhelmed by the enormity of the truth. The realization hit them like a tidal wave. Emma's disappearance had been part of a calculated, sinister plan, and their family had been unknowingly ensnared in its web. As the days passed, Emma and her family began to piece together more of the puzzle. Using the notes, photographs, and cryptic symbols she had found, Emma discovered hidden locations across town, abandoned warehouses, empty cabins, and forgotten basements that had once served as holding places for other children. Each location revealed fragments of information, personal items left behind, scribbled messages from other captives, and hints that the organization had infiltrated the town at multiple levels. The family realized with growing horror that the threat was not just an isolated figure, it was a network, and it had been operating in the shadows for years, unseen by anyone who wasn't looking closely. The weight of that knowledge was suffocating, but it also ignited a determination in them. They could no longer be passive victims. To protect themselves, and to ensure no one else suffered as Emma had, they had to confront the truth. One night, as Emma prepared to leave for another investigation, Michael stopped her. "You can't do this alone," he said, his voice trembling. "We need to protect you. We need to be together in this." Emma nodded, eyes glistening with emotion. "I know, Dad. I can't do it without you, but I have to follow the trail. This is the only way to end it." Claire embraced her tightly, whispering words of love and encouragement. Liam clutched her hand, his small frame shaking, but his eyes filled with unwavering support. And so, united, the family set out into the dark streets of Maplewood, following the clues that Emma had uncovered. Their search led them to an abandoned factory at the edge of town, a place that reeked of neglect and secrecy. Inside, they found remnants of the organization's operations, rusted cages, hidden rooms, and documents detailing the kidnappings over the years. It was there that Emma confronted the first member of the group she had encountered as a child, a woman who had acted as her caretaker during her disappearance. The woman, now older, looked surprised to see Emma, but recognition quickly turned into fear. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "They will come for you." Emma stepped forward, determination blazing in her eyes. "I'm here to end this," she said. The confrontation was tense, filled with revelations that shook the family to their core. They learned that Emma's abduction had been part of a plan to manipulate certain children, shaping them for unknown purposes, and that the organization had long-term goals that no one had anticipated. As the confrontation unfolded, a struggle ensued. The caretaker attempted to flee, but Emma and her family, working together, managed to stop her. In the chaos, documents were scattered, revealing names, locations, and plans that would allow law enforcement to dismantle the organization. Claire called the authorities immediately, while Michael and Liam secured the area. Emma, exhausted but resolute, felt a sense of closure beginning to form, a realization that the months of fear and pain had led them here, to the brink of truth and justice. When the police arrived, they were met with the evidence Emma had gathered. Investigations began, arrests were made, and the town of Maplewood slowly began to feel the weight lift from its shoulders. The family returned home, forever changed, but united in ways they had never imagined. Emma, though scarred by her experiences, had reclaimed her life, and her family had grown stronger, their bonds tempered by adversity. Liam, once a quiet observer, now spoke openly about the ordeal, his words helping the community understand the magnitude of what had happened. Claire and Michael, while haunted by the past, embraced each day with renewed purpose, ensuring that their home was a place of safety, love, and vigilance. The nights remained quiet, but Emma no longer feared the shadows. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, and her family had stood with her every step of the way. Together, they understood a truth that Maplewood might never fully grasp: courage, love, and determination could overcome even the most insidious threats. And as the sun rose over the town, bathing it in warm light, the family stood together on their porch, knowing that while the scars of the past would remain, the promise of tomorrow was theirs to hold. In the weeks that followed, Emma shared her story with the community, helping authorities uncover more hidden elements of the organization and ensuring that no other child would face the horrors she had endured. The family's resilience became a symbol of hope, inspiring others to confront their own fears and secrets. And though Maplewood would always remember the mystery of Emma's disappearance, it would also remember the extraordinary courage of a young girl who returned from the shadows, bringing truth, justice, and love back into the lives of those who never stopped believing she would come home. As the chapter closed, Emma sat with Liam, Claire, and Michael in the living room. The warmth of the fire illuminated their faces, and for the first time in a long while, the house felt like home. Emma took a deep breath and whispered, "We survived. And now, we live." Michael placed his hand over hers, Claire hugged them both, and Liam smiled, a light that had been dimmed for so long now shining brightly again. Outside, the wind rustled gently, carrying with it the promise of safety, peace, and the knowledge that some secrets, once uncovered, could bring not just fear, but also the strength to heal. And with that, the story of Emma's disappearance and return came full circle, a tale of mystery, heartache, courage, and the unbreakable bonds of family.